All right, away we go here, guys. It is now, get a load of this, Friday, January 3rd. It is 2020, and it is time for another edition of the Happy Hour Tip-Off Show. It is powered by WagerTalk.com. He is Ralph Michaels. I'm Joe Raineri, and it is college basketball on our minds here today, guys. Big card last night, 73-some-odd games in the books. All over the place last night. A lot to take away from that. But we got our first full weekend of conference matchups, really, in college basketball. It'll start tonight. Full slate of games, Ralph. A lot of mid-majors tonight. There are a couple of Big Ten and Big East games that we're going to go over here as our marquee matchups. But, you know, as we head into 2020, it's the first big weekend of conference play here.
You know, Joe, I don't think there's any more telling sign than when we start showing what happened last night. Yesterday of dogs of 2.5 or more.
Right.
And I think there was another 4 or 5 with 1 or 2. So, there's familiarity, there's conference play, there's a different intensity. There's a lot that needs to go out the window when you handicap conference season.
Oh, hold on, Ralph, because I think you're oh, there you go. Are you back? You got us now?
I'm still here. Did you not hear that?
Oh yeah, no, you were cutting in and out a little bit over there, but yeah, from what I was deducting there is that welcome, and you don't have to look any further than what we've got here on some of these upsets from last night to let you know that conference play is here, it's alive, and it's well.
The team we're used to pulling the upset, and they're the biggest team that got upset. And heck, UCLA, we talked about that total dropping, and good for them getting that win at Washington.
Yep. And you know, this was an interesting one. I was close to back in Hofstra yesterday. We talked about it a little bit, William and Mary. You know, Hofstra, to your credit, you pointed out, they really haven't played anybody yet. But, that was a little bit of a surprise there. I was kind of shocked the way they kind of beat them down there in that game.
Yeah, you know, it was a game that they controlled. And then, you know, I don't know, there's a lot of regional areas that have a lot of rivalries. And for those that don't know, Rhode Island Brown and Providence are all in that same area. So they play annually. And last year, Rhode Island ran them out of the gym. Last year, Rhode Island was having a poor season, played Brown and ran them out of the gym. This year, they've had a great start to the season, and they're the team that got ran out. So, you know, again, whenever you have those city rivalries like that play every year, you know, the dog is often the way to look.
Yeah, and of course, last night some standout performances by some guys here, Ralph. And there's a name at the bottom that we haven't heard from in a while, right? Xavier Tillman. It's a name we've heard a lot over the last couple of years there at Michigan State. But it's a name that hasn't quite made the board here in a while, though. Some injuries taking on Illinois there, Michigan State, 19-7-6-1-4. 4 blocks in that game there as Michigan State looks like they're trying to get back on track.
Well, you know, they were dealing with their injuries. They now know who's going to be playing for the rest of the season, who's not, and kids need to step up. And again, you know, anytime you get, you know, 6 assists with 4 blocks, you know, those are the categories. I look out to the right. A lot of people look at points and rebounds, but those last 3 categories to me are the biggies that, you know, to me, you know, 2 points is worth something. But when you're having 4 blocks, that really can be a game changer.
Yeah, big time over there. So we've got a little North Dakota State, Western Illinois, Tyson Ward, nice numbers there. 25, 11 boards, 6 assists, and hell, Ralph, even 2 steals and a block. Pretty impressive all-around night for Tyson Ward.
Oh, absolutely. You know, North Dakota State is, you know, a team that's been battling. South Dakota State had dominated that, you know, with Dom, you know, but again, they lose their coach to UNLV. They lose the player to the professionals. So, A lot of smaller schools, and we're going to see that happen now when we get into conference play. But I'll tell you what, when you're betting smaller schools, the amount pays the same as the big boys. So if you could find value in those smaller schools, then that's what you have to do.
Yep, and of course, some of the larger against the number totals and against the number spreads last night, Ralph. And I got to tell you, the one that sticks out to me is we got a lot of little dots there in the over, Ralph. Something tells me when I'm looking at 136.5 total, I get 3 dots and a 39.5 point over. I'm going to think that requires overtime. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, each asterisk is an overtime. So, the Houston Baptist you would think is probably 3 overtimes, but that wasn't. That was just 1 overtime. So, but again, you look at the total. The total was 178. So, obviously we're talking top 20 tempo, bottom 20 defense, bottom 20 defense. So, you need the combination of both there to be able to have that total of 128.
Yeah, and listen, even Western Kentucky and North Texas, too, it was a low total there, but no overtime there. That was a big cover there last night.
Yeah, it was. And if you guys, forget, Houston Baptist is that team we've talked about has now allowed – that was their first win on the year, by the way.
Was it really? That was that was one?
They're 1-10. And they've allowed 107, 96, 96, 113, 99, 112, 111, 103, 95, and 80 against Tulsa. So, there's going to be, they play in the Southland Conference, and a lot of guys, they added games with Sam Houston and FS Austin and Abilene Christian. So, a lot of guys aren't accustomed to it because they're not on the main board. But, the feedback we've gotten, Joe, is that there's enough people that play those added games now with the extra conferences, and that's why we just add them here, with the largest over covers for the day. Yeah,
and interesting, too, some of the under games there, Ralph. There was a lot of folks expecting James Madison there in North Carolina, Wilmington. They were expecting some scoring in that game. You can see it with the total at 154, but it never got going, Ralph. 30 points under the total in that matchup yesterday, and James Madison continues just to win games.
Yeah, Wilmington has slowed down the pace. They used to be having the hectic defense, but they're struggling. And, I think you look at him and he clearly has slowed his pace. Early in the year, he played some non-lower division guys. He beat 2 lower division guys and scored 100 points. But now they know they're overmatched, so you've seen a change. They have to slow it down to try to keep the game close, and that's exactly what's happening. And that's I believe, certainly what will keep happening moving forward.
Yep, absolutely. And guys, of course, do not forget here, opportunities over at wagertalk.com, not just today, but of course, all weekend long. Ralph's plays are up on the board there. Just go onto the handicappers page. You'll see the Cal Sports page over there. Packages available 3-day, 7-day. Ralph, I'm sure, will have an NFL play up there or two coming up over the next couple of weeks. National championship game, and of course, college basketball 7 days a week available there at wagertalk.com. And Ralph, of course, before we get to some of the market movement, 17 games on the card here today, guys. Again, a couple of major conferences, Big Ten, Big East, but we'll highlight those games coming up. A lot of mid-majors here. We'll take a look at the market movement and what's going on. But let's talk some trends and angles here. Ralph, what'd you find for us today?
Well, yeah, Fairfield, again, a team that's not always on the main board, 6-22 over under. We're looking at an Oakland team that plays very slow, 8-24 over under. UC Davis has covered their last 8 straight games. Bowling Green has failed to cover 7 straight at home. So, they're starting conference play in the MAC. And a team that I like, and I've followed Quinnipiac, now 17-6-2 on the road, which is so unusual because they're a team probably in the 200s, 220s. They're not an upper echelon team, and for a team to have that much success to continue to go on the road, is surprising to me.
Yep. All right. So we've got actually a couple of interesting mid-major games getting ready to go tonight here, Ralph. And as we take a look at the board, there is some interesting market movement as far as let's say spreads go, and one of the ones that jumped out to me was Monmouth and Siena. Siena opened up as a 5-point favorite. I'm seeing at least a 2.5-point swing here. I'm seeing a lot of 7.5s right now on the board, Ralph, coming out. So not a lot of faith, it appears to be in Monmouth, because the total is also climbing with the spread in this one.
Well, Monmouth, it has won 4 or 5 straight games. I mean, they started like 1-5, 1-4, and have battled back to 500 or a game over 500. So, I have Siena. I have them as the better team at home. So, you're looking at probably a 3 or a 4-point home edge in college basketball. So, to me, if you have a team that's clearly the better team at home, I agree with the line move.
What about, interesting enough, Rutgers, Nebraska here, Ralph, 8 o'clock tonight. This one has gone completely in one direction. Rutgers opened up, it looks like a 1-point favorite. I'm seeing 6 here, Ralph. 5-point swing here early on to Rutgers. And, I get it, Nebraska not exactly off to a great – they've had their struggles, but I think they're also a little bit battle-tested here, aren't they, at home? It seems a little excessive, but it's early on. But, man, oh, man, the Scarlet Knights 2-7 against a number in the last 9 games against the Cornhuskers here. Is it an overreaction? Are we missing something?
Well, it's the same Nebraska team that has a new coach and has 5 new starters. I mean, there's only 2 or 3 of those teams in the entire 353 teams, and same team that lost to Southern Utah and Riverside to start the year. So, but they have a win against Washington State. They, of course, knocked off Purdue. Mm-hmm. So they are very, very up and down. I don't agree with the line move. You look at Rutgers, and Rutgers has played 2 road games, and those were, again, against better teams than this, Pittsburgh and Michigan State, but they've lost both of those, and they're just a team that's played a lot of home games, and now, you're playing, again, not your first road game, but you're playing your first road game since December 8th, so you're playing your first road game in a month. So Rutgers, to me, is a team. A general look at Rutgers to me is play on home, play against on the road.
Interesting disparity here, Ralph, in a team that we have talked about in the past. Delaware taking on Drexel here tonight, and I don't get it. You got 30% of the tickets on Drexel, but it's 70% of the money on the spread. The spread is hovering around that 2 mark right now for Delaware. I've heard the argument that Delaware has been undervalued all year by the market here, Ralph. You think it's that case here as well?
Well, again, another game that scares me. Delaware may be 11-4, and some of those wins they had, I think, looked better early than they were. I mean, UTSA really struggled early, and Southern Illinois got out of the gate slow. They still played the number 329 schedule, and now they're playing against the Drexel team on the road. Yeah, Delaware is the better team, but they're not a team that I would back on the road as a chalk.
We do have a big move here in the total, Ralph, and how about Temple-Tulsa? Tulsa at home in this game here, Ralph. And again, 2 teams we have talked about before, the Golden Hurricanes here taking on the Owls. And, we've said it a whole bunch of times here. Tulsa's not a bad team. I mean, this is a team that you and I have been impressed with all year long. But the total, I mean, tack on, it opened up at 132. I'm seeing 138 here, Ralph. Now a 6-point swing in the total. This is 9 o'clock Eastern time, guys, in there. And also, looks like Temple's getting a little bit more money, too. They are now a 3-point favorite, opened up as a 2-point favorite on the road. We not giving Tulsa enough credit here?
Well, Tulsa's, you look at Tulsa and, you're off 3 losses. But again, Kansas State and Arkansas are losses that you're supposed to lose to. The bad loss was Colorado State at home.
Yeah.
And, it's a situation where I actually like Tulsa. I lean Tulsa in this. And as far as the total's concerned, I just think that's the bookmakers adjusting. Temple's off a couple games where Temple clearly under Aaron McKee is playing at 20 times faster than they did. They were always one of the slower paced teams.
Right.
Now they're one of the top 25 teams, as when they have the ball. And overall tempo, they're a top 100 team. And I just think they posted it low because Tulsa is such an under team at home. But I think the market did the right connection because Temple has pressed the pace, and when Temple has the ball, they're not afraid to run with it with the first-year head coach.
Yep, absolutely. And of course, guys, taking a look here, small card tonight. A lot of mid-major games. Were there any dogs here, Ralph, that stuck out to you?
Yeah. There's no question. Tulsa's a team that I looked at, and we talked about Nebraska. I gave out both of those opinions to my customers. I didn't get to the window with either one, but both were very, very close in my mind. So I do like both of those dogs that we talked about.
Yeah. What about this? I'm looking. This game is interesting from a market standpoint too, Ralph. Toledo taking on Ball State. Ball State opened up as a favorite in this one at home, but it's really swung back towards Toledo, almost to it looks like almost to a pick 'em here, but I don't know. I mean, Ball State certainly seems like they are capable at this one at home to be able to take them down. I mean, granted, not the most reliable team. They've won 3 out of their last 7 games overall, but the problem I think is that they were favorited in those games that they lost. But I think they can get the job done here against Toledo.
Ball State has a couple transfers that just became eligible in December. So the same Ball State team that, was 4-4. Yeah, you look at their last 3 games. That's that Ball State team that went down and burned me against Georgia Tech. And
I almost didn't bring it up, but yes.
but then they lose to Washington and UTEP, but those were all away from home. So, it's a game that I have an upside on Ball State, and the Toledo paper today convinced me that they feel okay. Toledo's off 3 straight losses to UMC, Wright State, and Bradley. And, I was looking to go Ball State. And, there's times when you're handicapping college and you're doing reading with local papers, there's certain writers when they say things, you believe them. And there's certain writers you just don't know because they're new or you don't read them enough. But the guy at the Blade there does a good job, and I feel he has a good feel. And the quotes that came out of from the head coach really has me convinced that they're okay with those 3 losses, and they were non-conference, and they know this is their focus. Listen, right. The MAC is a one-conference team. Right. Non-conference means absolutely nothing if you're in the MAC.
Yep.
You have to have a high seed. You have to win the tournament. That's the only way you're going dancing. So, perhaps he feels that he was just working on some things and got past those 3 losses. At least that's my take on the article. So we'll see if that's right or wrong. But I do that often, Joe. I take and I have a sheet for each team, and I write down a note, and then I go back and look. Was that, it's not win or lose, but it's how they play. And was that writer? Did he make the right assessment? Did that coach say things that held true? And that way, next time you go back, you know exactly whether you read it and take it with a grain of salt, or you read it that it's legitimate information that you can use to handicap.
Something that you can use moving forward. So a couple of games that we want to highlight here for you tonight. Like we said, a lot of mid-major stuff going on here today, but a couple of big conferences. The first one, Ralph, I don't think you have to look much further than interesting enough. 2 teams coming off of interesting games here in the Big Ten. Wisconsin taking on number 5 Ohio State here. The Badgers' biggest win this season just came against Tennessee over the weekend, Ralph. That kid, Demetric Trice, I think, had a big game there, 68-48. They were 4-point dogs in that game there, Ralph. And then, of course, Sunday we watched West Virginia beat Ohio State, and it's the way they beat them. In fact, I think that was most interesting there. The total stayed under 136. This is an interesting game. Ohio State's laying double digits here. The total hovering around that 124, 125 mark. How you looking at this game here tonight?
Well, I think the line's too high because Ohio State's playing very sloppy.
Right.
They turned the ball over on the road against Minnesota. They turned the ball over against West Virginia. And while Wisconsin may not be the premier team in the Big Ten like they have for some years, they still have a top 30 or 40 defense. They still slow the pace down. And, an important thing for Ohio State to note is that Kyle Young is out. Their starting power forward. Mm-hmm. He had an appendectomy, so he had his appendix removed and he's recovering. So he's going to be out a few games, but that just happened after the West Virginia game. So as sloppy as they played, as slow of a pace as it's going to be, you're without one of your starters. And granted, if you're without any of the Ohio State starters, he would be your first pick to sit out compared to the other four. But there's still continuity with him in there. So, there's only one way for me to look at this, and that's that Wisconsin side.
Yeah, it's interesting, too. By the way, the road team won both meetings last year, both straight up and against the spread, Ralph. But Wisconsin has the edge here, 4-2 against the number over the last 6 meetings. And by the way, the total has gone over in the last 5 between these two. Is the number a little low in your mind in this one, Ralph, especially if you're going to look for maybe Ohio State to have a better bounce-back game here? The problem was they got crushed in the second half. They were outscored 36-22 in West Virginia. Normally it's been they come in the second half, and that's really where they put their foot on the gas. It didn't happen against West Virginia.
Yeah, I lean under, but for those Joe and I, talked before. My last 3 unders that I've used have all been under in regulation and have gone to overtime and gone over the total. So there was no way in hell I was using an under today that,
Where are they? We know Wisconsin tempo. Where is Ohio State tempo-wise this year? Are they up at the top of the pack, or are they a little more middle of the road this year?
Oh no, they're 262 with Holtman.
Oh, okay. So they're okay. Yeah. So they all right.
I mean, think about Holtman back in those Butler days.
Right,
they would win games, 62 to 47.
Yes.
So yeah, they're not Virginia slow, but they're certainly not. They're in the bottom half, no question. So yeah, Holtman, has them playing. You look at. The Penn State game was the crazy game, 106-74, but, it was that same defense that held North Carolina to 49 points. So clearly, again, I still lean under, even though that number looks a little low. But
it opened up at 122 here, guys, and it's already been bet up to 124.5. So it might have opened up a little too low there, Ralph, because it does seem to be getting some buy here, because it is getting pushed up to 124.5. They dropped, didn't they score? They scored in the 70s, I think, against Kentucky a couple of weeks ago, didn't they? Ohio State.
70 to 65.
Right, yeah, it was somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, it was right around there. So, but
you're right, again, sloppy.
Kentucky's not. Kentucky's not a fast team either, but they're not Wisconsin slow.
Right. Yeah, Wisconsin's like watching paint dry here, guys. Interesting matchup there. And another great highlighted game here tonight, guys, looking forward to, and that is Georgetown at Seton Hall. And a little Big East matchup here. Georgetown, a straight-up, I believe, 6-game winning streak right now that came to an end, I believe, when they lost. Was it Providence, I think, in the Big East opener that they lost to, Ralph? 7, and they actually got crushed there. But I got to tell you, impressive what he's been able to do there, Patrick Ewing. We've talked about it all season long. Had a lot of personnel changes going on that team. Got rid of a couple of really good players, but they seem to really come together. And meanwhile, Seton Hall, what can you say about these guys? They just took down Monday, was it DePaul, I believe? And we were wondering, will Miles Powell play? Well, he dropped 27 on Monday, Ralph, so he was back, and he was back in a big way. And listen, as he goes, Seton Hall goes here in this game, and Seton Hall's laying 6 in this one, Ralph, at home. Total is 147. What do you think?
I think it's going to help Seton Hall because that Maryland win was without Powell. Mm-hmm. And I think that gives them a lot of confidence moving forward to know that Powell's missed a few games and you still have won those games. Obviously, they're a better team with them. Joe, there's been 2 or 3 instances where we have talked about games and we said, tune in, and if this player's playing, play that team.
Yep.
Or if this player's not playing, play the team. And it's won. Well, Georgetown's top offensive threat is Matt McClung.
Mm-hmm.
Matt McClung missed their game against Providence.
Mm-hmm.
Matt McClung is questionable tonight. If you are watching this game and Matt McClung is not playing, I will be betting Seton Hall, and I suggest you bet Seton Hall.
Mm-hmm.
If McClung is playing, then it's a pass for me because Georgetown has proven they can keep it close. He's that important. He's the reason they struggled and only scored 60 points against Providence, and they need him in the lineup.
Yeah, and they got the other big kid, too, and the center is Omar. It's like Yurt 7. He's a
Yurt 7, yeah.
Yeah, the dude is he is a beast. I think he's got a couple of double-doubles working right now. He's another force. They're averaging 80 points a game here, Ralph, Georgetown this year. What do you think? I mean, the number is 147 here. Is it a little too low? You think maybe we can get into the 150s with these two?
Well, again, I think it matters with McClung, because you have to remember Georgetown jettisoned a few players back before the Oklahoma State game. One was their point guard. They've been able to survive that, but without that and without McClung, I mean, to me, it's a correlated parlay that if he's playing, I think it's the over. If he's not playing, then to me it's Seton Hall and the under.
It's Seton Hall and the under, guys. So you got yourself a couple of big time big conference games, Big East, Big Ten, a lot of mid majors on the card here, Ralph. Was there a situational spot in any one of those that you looked at here, or did we cover them already?
Yeah, I sort of, situationally like Green Bay against Illinois, Chicago. Ooh. Green Bay is, probably the second fastest team. They shoot the ball faster than anyone. I think Houston Baptist or Central Michigan is first, but Green Bay is right there. So, now you're back in. You were out of the holidays. Illinois, Chicago played Youngstown State on the 30th, Monday, and now coming back and, you had a respite. You played Saturday, you played Monday, and now you're playing your third game in 6 days, and you're playing the fastest place team on the road. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be tough for the Flames to keep up with the Phoenix.
Best bets here tonight, guys, as we take a look at this card. One of the games I looked at here, Ralph, and tell me if I'm wrong, but St. Peter's is still atrocious, are they not? And I'm not saying that Iona is fantastic. They're not. Certainly the Gales aren't what they have been in a couple of years past, but it's under double digits, and I'm looking at 8.5 here. I think it should be double digits, but St. Peter's is still atrocious, right? Nothing has happened that I missed here, so I think the Peacocks, even for Iona at home, I think should be an easy win. No.
Well, St. Peter's used to be a team that was probably in the 320s. I think Ken Pom has them around 260 now or 270. So
really,
yes, they're 3-6. But you beat bad teams. Now they beat St. Francis, they beat Fairleigh Dickinson, and they beat LIU.
Right.
Now Iona's better than those teams. The interesting thing about Iona is this. They've only played 7 games.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I'm looking, I don't know who the most is, but the Zags have played 16. Liberty's played 16. Mm-hmm. And, you're talking about a team that's played 7 games. I don't know if anyone else has only played 7 games. So, it's how much do you have, out of the break. So for me, I completely agree with your reasoning, but I'm a little bit afraid because you've since December 17th, so we're talking 3 weeks now, you've played 1 game.
Yeah.
And that was a game at Colorado, which you lost by 40 or 50, and we learned nothing about you. So that's the only concern with me is you want to talk about rust. If any team's going to have rust, it's going to be Iona.
What do you think? Best bet? Where are you leaning here tonight, there, Ralph?
You know, I'm going to go ahead and just give out my play that I have for sale at Wager Talk. So don't, when you go to Wager Talk, don't buy my play today. It's up for $25. And I just have one play today, and it's Houston, and it's Houston minus the 10. And I often say, revenge is such an overused term. Mm-hmm. Just because you lost to a team doesn't mean you have revenge. If you were supposed to lose to a team and you lost, that's not revenge. That's just another game. But Houston lost one home game last year. That was to UCF. So now they get them at home. The UCF team, to me, they're such a different team without Taco Fall in there now, and they have to play a different way on defense. And Houston's just a elite offensive team that plays very good defense. The 3 losses this year, I have no problems with any of the 3. A BYU team, I'm very high on. Yep. An Oregon team, and an Oklahoma State team, which we know when they're healthy and play good defense, they can shut teams down. So, I like Houston in this situation. I think there's no way UCF can keep up offensively with Houston in this game.
It should be a fast-paced game, should it not, Ralph? I mean, they should be, the tempo-wise for both these teams should be there.
Well, UCF's going through their transition. They were, in the 300s last year.
Right.
But, they're in the bottom half. Both of these teams are still in the bottom half tempo-wise. And I think with with this being the conference game, I don't expect it. Where's the number on the total here?
The number on the total is 133 right now.
Yeah, that's 33, 35 in my head is really where I would have it. Let's see here. These are Ken Palm's numbers.
Yeah, it opened up 131, so it's being pushed up to 133, 134.
UCF 240, Houston 272.
So that's about right. I mean, that's the number is about right where it's going to be. And like you said, but defense is going to come into play in this game, guys. I can, like you said, Ralph, they're an elite defensive team. So can UCF do enough? Can they contribute enough to be able to even hit the over?
Yeah, Houston's weakness, their only real weakness is defending the 3. People have burned them defending the 3. But, UCF is number 281 in the country as far as 3-point percentages go. So, the one place that people have taken advantage of the Cougars isn't something UCF can do.
I got, Ralph, one more, guys, before I let you go. I had it circled here, and I just saw it. You tell me here, Ralph. I'm looking at Oakland Wright State here tonight in this game, and Wright State's getting an awful lot of love here. And obviously you look at the record with Oakland and you look at the record of Wright State, but Wright State's schedule, if I'm correct here, is just it's inflated everything. Their schedule has been as weak as it gets. Now, Oakland has had their schedule is a little bit tougher than what Wright State's is, and Wright State's laying 3.5 points in this game, and I'm real tempted to go the other way here, Ralph, and back Oakland in this game. I mean, am I crazy at this, or is Wright State really overvalued here?
No, Joe. Yesterday, for example, I had a play on UT Arlington. I'm pulling up my write-up to give you the numbers. UT Arlington was 4-9.
Right.
And they were laying points to an Arkansas State team that was 10-3. Mm-hmm. So why were they the away favorite? Well, you had the number 9 schedule against the number 305 schedule. So that's how you get very misleading, where public looks and sees a 10-win team that's a home dog against a 4-win team.
Right.
Well, this one's close to being as bad. Oakland may be 6-8.
Right.
They've played the number 86 schedule. Wright State is 12-3. They've played the number 340 schedule. Yep. So only 13 teams have played a weaker schedule than Wright State. Wright State has not faced a top 100 team.
Wow.
Now, Oakland's not a top 100 team, but it just shows you that they have not faced anybody. So, had they played any type of schedule like Oakland, Wright State would probably be under 500 as well. So, strength of schedule is mandatory to look at when you get into conference play. And then, once we get into February, I actually stopped looking at records and strength of schedule, and I only look at conference-only records and stats because, then you're comparing apples to apples. So, huge disparity with the strength of schedule.
Yeah, and also Oakland, guys, pretty decent at home, 8-3 against the number in their last 11 home games. So I'll take the 3.5 in that one. And like Ralph said, you can go to wagertalk.com, guys. Make sure you check it out all weekend long. He hooked you up already with the play that's posted today, but all weekend long, college hoops, opportunities for you guys to be able to profit in college basketball. So make sure you head over there, wagertalk.com. Hit up Ralph on the Cal Sports page. You going to dabble in any football this weekend as well here, Ralph?
I have yet to post. I can tell you that I'll tell our viewers, I probably won't have a side. I have leans right now on all 4 unders.
Okay.
And I'm doing some reading today, and I'll probably post my top totals play. It'll be an under, and I don't know which game. There's a couple of them I'm looking at, but
sure.
I'm not a fan of really any side this week. So to me, I'll be hoping for a lower scoring weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be packed here, guys. A lot of opportunities this weekend to profit. Of course, it starts with get over to wagertalk.com. Make sure you're tailing Ralph on Twitter. Always great information being posted there every day, guys. Valuable information that will help you make it a very profitable 2020. At Cal Sports LV on Twitter. We will do this again on Monday, recapping everything that happens over the weekend. And from here on out, Ralph, 5 days a week, we got ourselves college basketball conference play. Getting ready for March Madness because, don't look now, Ralph, what are we doing? You're 40 days away from pitchers and catchers?
Yeah, it's,
Holy crap.
Baseball to me is so long. It takes me a while to get into it. I know there's a lot more people excited than I am.
I'm just laughing because I'm like, I can't believe. And then March Madness is right here. Then basketball. It's like, holy crap! 2020 is here, Ralph. Where does the time go? Guys, enjoy your day. Enjoy your weekend. Good luck. Make it a profitable one. Come back and join us. Make sure you subscribe to the channel here at Wager Talk. Come back and join us again Monday. Ralph, good luck with your plays, brother. We'll talk to you on Monday.
Go talk to you in 23. Oh, no, I won't. 2 days in 23.
48.
71. Yeah.
I'm with you, man. 71 it is. Good luck, guys.
See you, bud. Thanks.